everybody. This is Joshua Hatton with One Nation Under Whiskey. I am joined today and again for the first time this year in 2026 with my good friend, my business partner, the dear White Walker, the wizard, Jason Neal Patrick Harris Johnston Yellen. Happy New Year, Jason.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to listeners who I didn't get to wish a Happy New Year in the last episode, which was a cracker. I have to say, if somebody out there has not read Opening the Case, they absolutely must. Justine's book on the Pattison crash is fantastic. I read it over winter break. It's so incredibly well done. And she takes what could be a dusty historical retelling and makes it so active and so engaging. And I thought while I was reading it, this is a page turner. Like, I really am eager. Like, it's the Pattison crash, right? We've talked about it, for decades, for a century. Yeah. I knew so little about it. There was so much to learn about it. It was so well presented. Yeah, and this is not just, for the sake of the podcast. I already texted Jess and said, Jess, what Justine did in that book was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So please, listeners, go back. If you haven't done so, listen to the episode with Justine, but also get your hands on a copy of the book. It's one of those books I was reading it thinking, who can I gift this to? Like it's that type of book where you're like, who would really, that person would really enjoy this. I have to get them a copy of this. So yeah, I was really taken by it. Kudos to Justine. Fantastically well done.
Wow. That is a ringing endorsement because
Thank
you don't always say nice things.
Well, I say honest things. I say truthful things.
There you go. Yes, that is true. That's
you don't always get what you want. We learned that from the Rolling Stones decades ago. Justine's book was the first book I read of 2026. I read it on January 1 and thoroughly enjoyed it. So I think I closed out 2025, 77 books read, I think, for the year.
Oh my gosh.
And then, And so we're about halfway through January. I think I'm 4 books into 2026 now. So working on my 5th. So.
Wow. Amazing. Really well
So just
done,
to say, there is context, right? It's not the only book I've read in the 2020s. Yeah. There's a few books getting read alongside it. So kudos to Justine. Loved it. Really impressed. Really impressed.
Very cool. Very cool. So listen, we've got a few things to cover here. Really, one of the most important things is we're going to be drinking whiskey.
Always important.
It's really important because it's early in the morning, and there are a few things better than sipping on some whiskey early in the morning. And I've been looking forward to drinking this whiskey with you.
Same.
I had heard about this particular whiskey a few months back, and I was kind of surprised by it. But though I shouldn't be, right? It's the Bruichladdich the Laddie Rye, and then you told me, oh, Joshua, I got a bottle of this, and I said, okay, all right, I need to get a bottle, and go ahead.
No, I was just going to throw in for today's tasting, each of us is opening his own personal bottle here. These are not samples from Remy. These are not samples from Bruichladdich. These are not samples from industry friends. These are our own bottles. Yeah. In doing a little bit of research for today's episode, the press release for this bottling went live November 5th of 2025. I thought this had come out earlier than that, and I just simply slept on it. But the big announcement for this was November 5th of last year. So we're only two and a half months into the launch of this actual bottle.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. You thought you'd slept on it as well?
Well, I did. You know what it is? It's, I think because we're in the industry, we'd heard about it earlier than that. And so therefore, I just thought it was more of a known commodity.
Right. Well, their experiment started in 2017, so we've been hearing about
maybe
the potential for Laddie Rye for 8 years. You know, so it's easy to actually miss the launch of the bottle in amongst all of that. So, but before we get a deeper dive on this bottle, there's an announcement before we get to, because I really want to roll up my sleeves and get into the whiskey. So let's check off another bit of business.
Yeah, and it's a big announcement because we don't do this too often, and when we do it, we like to make a thing of it. We are launching, because it's really cold. I don't know how it is where you are, Jason, but it's quite frigid where I am. We are announcing a big sale at singlecasknation.com. And it's going to be launched from January 26th through to February 6th. And we're calling it our Bundle Up campaign. Bundle Up with Single Cask Nation. And so the idea behind this is, I mean, a lot of our nation members will know, anytime we launch new whiskeys, we like to give people the opportunity to maybe save a few dollars. And, if we launch 2 whiskeys, maybe we'll bundle them together and they can save, a few bucks. And not usually, every time, these are limited bundles. And once they sell out, they sell out. And then the next month we release a new set of whiskeys, and we have a new set of bundles that we put out there. And when they're sold out, they're sold out. This time around, because we're not releasing any new whiskeys until March or so, we wanted to take advantage of January and February and give Nation members or anybody who happens to come onto the website who wants to be a part of the Nation and grab some bottles. We wanted to give people an opportunity to get some savings, to maybe grab some bottles that they've been looking at. And so we've developed 8 different bundles for people to look at, 8 different opportunities to say, I've been looking at these 2 bottles. I've been looking at those 2 bottles. I've been looking at these 2 bottles. And so the idea is, I'm going to put this little banner up on here. The idea is, go to our website, drop a bundle into your shopping cart, you'll get 10% off. Drop another bundle into your shopping cart, and it automatically jumps up to 15% off. Drop another bundle in, and it automatically goes to 20% off, right? And once you drop that second bundle in, you're into free shipping territory instantly, right? And so people will have between January 26th through to February 6th to take advantage of that sale. 2 whole weeks. That's not so bad. Yeah,
just over my shoulder here, I'm showing off the new releases. This was November, and then we did the big Lafroig release in December. And so, Auchentoshan is out there, Linkwood's out there, Loch Lomond is out there. Like, there's some really fun things. Gosh, you and I were talking about this the other day. There's a Glenkinchie. There's a Glenallachie sitting on the website. Right? A Glenallachie, one of the hottest brands in America right now, sitting on our website, Single Cask Strength. So there's going to be some fun to be had. Yeah, if you're a long-time supporter of the Nation, tell your friends about it. Great time to get them involved as well. As you say, Joshua, add in a couple of those bundles, get the 15%, get the free shipping. There's a lot of rewards going on there for supporting the Nation, grabbing some bottles. And at the end of the day, amazing whiskey comes to your house and you get to be the toast of the town, opening up Single Cask Nation at Cask Strength, often in some very interesting casks as well. So always cask stories to be told around about these bottlings as well. So really, really exciting. I love it when we can put a few dollars back in the pockets of the Nation. I love when we can bring new people into the Nation. I love when we can celebrate good whiskey. So all of that is to the fore with Bundle Up. You were asking about the weather here in Virginia. Mornings are starting out in the mid-20s. That's Fahrenheit. Afternoons are getting into the mid-50s, which is Fahrenheit. So, and then the other day it was mid-40s and snowing. So,
Wow. Wow.
you know, you hunker down, you pour your coffee, you pour a dram, you see where you get to. But a day's a day. It's pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, the last thing I want to add to this is we want to make it easy. There's no promo codes. You just drop the bundles into your shopping cart.
Love it.
And it happens automatically.
Love it.
So, easy breezy, lemon squeezy.
There you go. Speaking of hot commodities, you mentioned it earlier, the Laddie Rye. Look how smart Bruichladdich are. Look how smart Remy are. They've done away with the neck pour. They've eradicated it. I purposely did not open this bottle so I could show viewers, can't show the listeners, but I am showing the viewers, unopened bottle, not a drop of liquid in that little tiny squat neck.
Can I argue they may be following suit? Because we do not have whiskey in our neck either. I think
It gets controversial when you say things like following suit. Now we got to go to the record. Now we got to see. And I feel like the Bruichladdich have had their shorter bottle longer than we've had our shorter bottle. But, you know, Americans don't let the details get in the way of a good claim. So they also don't let sovereignty get in the way either. So here we are. We are the sovereign single cask nation. So.
I was I was doing a little bit of research, before we got on here. So I wanted to see, who else is doing rye whiskey in Scotland. And I was surprised to see it's not just Bruichladdich. I mean, we knew that Tia Ninnick was producing rye whiskey for a while, but not really releasing any. Tia Ninnick, of course, being a Diageo distillery, producing whiskey for the Johnny Blend. And they actually released their rye whiskey. I think they call it the Tia Ninnick Daring Rye. It's an 8-year-old rye, part of the Diageo special releases. So that's another one for us to be looking out for as well.
Yeah, do you remember in 2019 when we were on Isla and we were with Jess and Sweet Scott, and we interviewed Anthony at Kilhoman, but we also interviewed Dave Broom on the same day in the same booth at Kilhoman.
Yeah. That's like season 4-ish, I think. Yeah.
On that visit, I remember Dave talking about, just in his conversations, hearing about Scottish producers working on rye. Mm-hmm. And he had kind of said, watch this space. You're going to start seeing it appear. And I know, Inchdarney have done it, Arbicki have done it. Here we've got Bruichladdich. There are definitely going to be more. Keep your eyes peeled. But the fact that, I was saying this before the Bundle Up announcement, this was a November 5th announcement for this. I bought this bottle the end of that month. I think you bought your bottle the end of December, if memory serves. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of information around this. We're getting some key details. Right. The label itself shows 7 years old. Mm-hmm. The label itself says a combination of Islay-grown rye and Islay malted barley. Mm-hmm. A little bit of digging shows that it's 55% rye, 45% malted barley.
Right.
I was additionally reading there's fresh bourbon casks in the maturation, and then there's virgin oak casks in the maturation. And the virgin oak is toasted, not charred. And right? Okay. And so it'll be kind of interesting to see what's that toast doing in the absence of the char. And then the casks are all brought together and then released at 50% alcohol. So a good number on there. And then the final thing that I discovered, and I was a little surprised by this. I'm curious if you already know this, Joshua. This is a US exclusive.
I did not know that.
I'm
I mean,
I'm hesitant to say it because I didn't have enough time to start putting in some of the bigger players in the UK and Europe. But everybody I found selling this was US based. So,
wow.
yeah, it could very well be US exclusive. Isn't that wild?
That is very interesting. It's interesting that, you've got these Scotch whiskey distilleries that are producing rye, and there's a number of them, as you pointed out. I wonder if others have followed that suit. My guess is the Teen Innick one that we mentioned. The Diageo special releases tend to be global releases, so I doubt that one is a U.S. release. But I wonder if, this is that bridge to the American consumer. Oh, you like this Bruichladdich Rye? Why don't you try some Bruichladdich single malt Scotch whiskey? Oh, interesting.
I find that quite grain forward on the nose.
Yeah, I didn't dig that deep into it. As far as, makeup went, as far as the casks went, like you said, as far as markets went. What I did do is I saw you just opened your bottle. I opened mine up over the holiday break, and I had a few drams. And like you had said, that's the first thing I noticed. Very grain forward nose. And I don't know if you got this upon first nosing this, is I get a Bruichladdichness. I get some of that lactic, dank quality going on.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I looked for it, right?
And I was going to say, is that
Yeah.
leading the witness? Like, would your nose have gone there blind?
I don't know if it would. I wanted to find Bruichladdich in this. And I don't know if that's the right approach, but I think with anything, and we do this as independent bottlers when we're bottling a cask, we want to find that distillery character within the cask. I wanted to find the distillery character in this, especially with this being not single malt, right? This is technically, as far as Scotch whiskey terms are concerned, single grain.
Yeah, correct. Islay single grain Scotch whiskey.
I'm curious, when you were doing your research on the cask makeup, did it specify whether the toasted casks were specific to the rye distillate and the bourbon casks were specific to the malt?
No, and that's what I mean about there's not a lot of information about this.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of, for me it leads with, we wanted to grow rye because rye is regenerative for soil. Right?
Sure.
Huzzah. Like, fantastic. Let's celebrate that.
Yeah.
You've got the environmental leanings of the Bruichladdich distillery. That makes good sense for, they're trying to be good stewards of the land. So I feel like the rye grain itself leads the story. It's interesting that it then leads the nose. To then have, and here's the nerdy details of what we did with the casks, seems to be a different version of the story. And so it's grain forward, perhaps maturation second. Even the fact you have to do a little bit of that dive. And I may have seen the 55-45 in a press release. I may have read it on a blog. I got it from a press release.
Yeah.
Speaking of Old Broomy, I was reading his Hugmanay post, his December 31 post on his blog. Yeah. And he talks about, what's AI doing for us? And spoiler, not a lot. And his comment, it's a well-written piece. I recommend it. But his comment was, distilleries more and more are leaning on press releases. Distilleries more and more are using AI to generate those press releases. And it's interesting as we come to the presentation of our first whiskey of 2026, I'm asking that question, and this comes from Brumi, like why? Ask the whys. AI is not asking the whys. AI is really just collecting data and spitting it back out again. So the whys, right? Like, why toast and not char for your rye? Right? Who do we get to speak to? Who do we get to ask that follow-up question of? Right? Here we're sitting here, so sometimes we've got access, sometimes we haven't. Here we are tasting our own bottles of this Bruichladdich, right? We haven't asked Adam any follow-ups. We haven't been on Isla to ask Adam any follow-ups. And so I've got unanswered questions about this bottling that I wouldn't mind pressing forward on and having access to somebody to ask those questions, to get geeky, right? Very much to your point, Joshua, right? Is how did the maturation of this come together? What was the thinking behind it? Did the rye go into the toast and the Scotch went into traditional fresh bourbon? Like these are great questions that press release doesn't have, the label doesn't have, but I'm still happy to celebrate rye as a grain, as a regenerative grain for the soil. I'm happy to celebrate that, but we're still whiskey geeks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, they haven't told us, but my guess would be the reason for toast over char, if you're leading with grain, char has the potential to overtake, right? If you toast the wood, you give the grain the opportunity to shine. If you char the wood, you have the opportunity for the oak to overtake. Think of the Isla barley releases that Bruichladdich have done. They've always been an ex-bourbon refill, if I'm not mistaken. The wood has always stepped back to let that barley shine. And so if the idea is to do just that, right? They specify it. Isla rye, Isla malt. Let's show that. I think if they're using that mentality, that would make sense to my mind, right?
Yeah. I was just, as you were chatting, the palate is starting to warm up for me. I'm sitting here with both hands on this. My glass is cold. My bottle was cold. Here we are talking about these mid-20s mornings in Virginia. A little chilly out here in the office. So I'm warming it up, and as I'm sipping on it, I'm holding it on my palate, and I'm starting to get a bit of the coconut licorice all-sort quality. I'm starting to get a little bit of the anise, the licorice adding onto that. I'm starting to get some fennel adding onto that. Starting to get a little herbaceousness coming in here. As I'm getting this to warm up on my palate, the whiskey is opening up. This is very pleasing on the palate. Yeah. And as I'm warming it, I will return to the nose. I didn't want to say too much, given that it was cold. The nose wasn't, opening up particularly much for me. I did comment on the grain forward nature of that nose, but it was still chilled. And so now on the palate, I can actively warm it up. Now I can return to the nose as it warms. But holy moly, the coconut and the fennel, the anise, the herbaceousness is very pleasing.
Yeah, see, I'm getting some candied elements out of this. On the nose, I was getting a little bit of cherry wax lips. And I got some bright candied quality, a little like that candy coating on a candied apple across the center palate coming through that sort of followed along with some of those herbaceous notes that you talked about. Some sweetness that I didn't expect.
When you say candy coating on a candy apple, is that
right?
Like
the cherry, that bright red candy coating that you get on a candied apple.
Okay, okay. Is that kind of a sugar? Is that a simple syrup with maybe a bit of food coloring in it?
It is, yeah.
Just when you'd said candy coating on a candy apple, I wasn't sure if we were going caramel, a toffee, a simple
And
syrup.
that's why I wanted to specify the candy coating, not the caramel coating.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify for international listeners on this US exclusive Laddie Rye. This has to be going to other markets. There's no way they could just keep this to the US.
Yeah. Oh, there's a little bit of pepper going on there, a little bit of white pepper. %50 makes this nice and easy.
Oh man, yeah, this
Right?
Yeah, I keep turning it actually. It sits a little flat in the glass. It's not, even as I'm kind of, getting the bubbles, even at the 50 maybe for being 7, right? Those bubbles dissipate pretty quickly. They fall away quite rapidly. And so I'm looking, I know it's a quality that you particularly like, is that effusiveness, the effervescence on a palate.
Yeah.
And I'm finding this to be quite flat. There's a bit of a hum to this, a singular hum on this. I also get a green wood quality on the nose. And I think the green wood can be a bit of that rye grain coming through there. More so than cask, even though I'm saying the word wood.
Yeah.
It could also be the toast versus the char if it is the wood.
Yeah, it's interesting on the what you mentioned about the press release. They mentioned obviously malted barley, but they don't mention a malting process on the rye. Right? And then when I was doing a little bit of research on some other distilleries that are producing rye whiskeys, if I read correctly, Arbicky's doing unmalted rye.
Okay.
Where Inch Darney looks to be using malted rye.
Okay.
Right? And so it's nice to see that some of these distilleries are kind of playing around a little bit, similar to what we're doing here in the States. And, one of the things that I thought about is this seems to be kind of a newer phenomena, across these past 7-8 years, right? Lottie's releasing this at 7 years old. Tianinic is releasing an 8-year-old rye whiskey. Arbicky, Inch Darney, right? These are newer distilleries releasing rye whiskeys. Rye is America's first spirit, right? It's a very American spirit. And here we are, 9 years, 10 years into, is it 9 years? Yeah, 10 years into, American single malt, right? So we have America trying to honor what seems to be a very Scottish/Irish spirit, right? Depending on how you want to look at history.
Controversial. Okay, carry on.
You're welcome. And then in Scotland, trying to honor or look at an American tradition. And I love this, each side of the pond sort of dipping their toe into the other side of the pond. And I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if it's, gosh, I don't know. I don't know if, like your point earlier about, is this a U.S. release only, shattered my original thought. My original thought was, we're now trying to show single malt to Americans. Here in the U.S., we're making an American single malt to show Americans how cool single malt is, and now you should try Scotch single malt. But with this potentially being a U.S. release only, kind of shatters that idea that I had in my head. You know what I mean? Of hey, Scottish people, try rye whiskey, and now, try the American rye whiskey as well.
Yeah, I think an aspect of it is established markets, right? If you're sitting in America and you're watching, the burgeoning single malt Scotch world in your territory, and you're like, I want some of that. I want some of that action. Like, I like this 100% malted barley product.
Sure, of course.
I'm going to go make some of that. I think if you're sitting overseas and you go, there are rye markets in America. If we're going to make rye because rye grain is good for the soil, wouldn't you want to sell it where rye's already established, right? People are at least interested in a new rye, or here's that Scottish rye, as a part of it. The other group that comes to my mind is thinking about the Harrises up at Catoctin Creek, who famously doing Catoctin Creek rye, but their inspiration was visiting Glenmurray, Scotch distillery in Elgin, and we're like, oh, I'd like to distill, but what is our natural grain? What is the natural story for us to tell around distillation? So I think you've got as many stories as you've got distillers and distilleries. But as you say, fun to see Bruichladdich dipping a toe into another category and seeing what perspective they can bring to that. Really tasty. And I'm having a moment here where I'm getting very excited because on the finish, I get a quality that I don't often get, but others do. I have the finish being quite minty, almost like a nice kind of spearmint. Like there's a freshness to the mint in the finish.
Oh, I can see where you're going with that. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head from the get-go with the overall herbaceous quality going on here. And obviously, a mintiness falls well within there. A brighter herbaceousness. Yeah, that's nice. I think overall, this tells a really fun story. My palate is still going towards some of those candied notes. I'm still getting some of those cherry lips on the nose. I'm still getting some of that like nice sort of, like when I said the candied part of the candied apple, it's almost like a juicy sweetness too. Like there's something like I want to sink my teeth into it. It's not just hard candy. It's the flavor of it, but there's a juiciness to it as well. Right? So you have that sort of offsetting or balancing the overall herbaceousness to it. There's a nice balance to this, which I quite like.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm back to kind of where we started our conversation about if one were to taste this blind. It's not obvious to me that it's 50% alcohol. And I might be splitting hairs, but if I was to taste it blind, I might wonder 48, I might wonder 46. And it's interesting because I'm looking for a little more texture across the palate here. And I wonder if that 55% rye has taken away 55% of my beloved malted barley. And I wonder if, right? And I'm wondering where that mouth feel has gone. I held this up and said it sits a little flat in the glass. It runs a little flat across the palate. But what I am thinking is tonight I want to make a Black Manhattan with this because I think that's where the 50% will shine. And so 2 ounces rye, 1 ounce Amaro. I use Chiacharo, which is beloved.
Chiacharo is great,
ever since Gabby introduced me to it at Mixing Glass. And then dash of orange bitters, dash of Angostura bitters. And then I have it stirred over a large rock with a couple of brandied cherries. That's my Black Manhattan. And I'm so partial to them. And I'm curious to see where does the 50% go here? What role does the Islay malted barley play here? to that kind of candied sweetness that you're talking about. How does that play with the Amaro in there? Like this is, you can tell I'm getting quite excited about my evening dram. But I only have a cocktail at the end of a good day, so I need this to be a good day, or I will not allow myself to have my evening cocktail. So.
Oh, so you're saying Hatton, don't fuck it up. Don't make my day a bad day.
And when I see Jess shortly, I'll be telling Jess the same thing. Don't get in the way of my Black Manhattan on the stroke of 5 p.m.
Really quickly, there's an overall drying quality to this, not astringent in any way, but an overall drying quality. Do you think that sort of talks a bit to the flatness that you're experiencing?
Oh, maybe, yeah. Maybe. I think it's that white pepper that you were talking about. I think there's also kind of a ground grey pepper in the conclusion of this. I think, I think some people would probably talk about baking spices at this moment. I think there's this sense of, I've just given myself the thumbs up for all viewers. I think there's definitely the rye landing the plane here that has that kind of quiet, drying rye, toasted oak thing going on. Very tasty. A lot of room there. I don't think we mentioned it along the way. Press release talks about $60 for the bottle. You can find it for $55. If you get lucky, you may find it for $50. But yeah, I think it's a great price. It's a great experiment. I think it really, like, the dude's rug ties the room together. I'm excited to drink more of it. I'm excited to watch it evolve. I'm excited to play around with it in cocktails as well. So, yeah, well done, Bruichladdich. No arguments here.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, this is now my third dram, my first dram with someone else. And it's nice to experience this with you because I'm able to find things that I hadn't to. Right. So thanks for dramming along with me on this.
Red apple skins on the nose.
Do me a favor, when you have a moment, send me the cocktail recipe to your Black Manhattan. I'll put it into the show notes, and I'll put it into our notes here. When I post this into Facebook and to our various places, so that our listeners and viewers can make this, whether it's the Laddie Rye or we've got some ryes as well that we do. It's I think you've made me your Black Manhattan Rye. Is it the Black Manhattan Rye? Black Manhattan. Anyway, I'd like to put it out there for others to try.
Can do.
Okay, cool. So listen, I need to get you out of here because you have meetings to get to.
Thank you.
I have meetings
Only
to
good
get
meetings.
To. I have a root canal to get to. That's a meeting I don't want to get to.
Yes, you have. I take some Laddie Rye afterwards. Rub it on your gums when you're coming out of there. See how that feels.
So just a quick reminder again. January 26th through February 6th, we're going to have our Bundle Up campaign at singlecastnation.com. And one bundle gets you 10% off, two bundles 15% off. Drop a third bundle into your shopping cart, automatically 20% off. No promo codes. Shit just happens. You get money off. Bottles go to your doorstep. Happy days. For the listeners, for the viewers, thank you. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, thank you. If you don't already, please do. Click the button below. Click the little bell below to be reminded of episodes. Please ask people to join in. Please tell your friends about our Bundle Up campaign. I mean, we really don't do sales too often, so take advantage while you can. And then lastly, for those that did listen to our episode last week, we all heard from the ice cream man, his wonderful email discussing our Lefroy 25. Since then, we've received a couple other emails, and I would urge people to do the same. Send us some emails, info@singlecasknation.com. We love hearing from people. And when we can get to reading emails on our episodes, we definitely will, and we definitely do. So Until the next episode, which we've got coming up, we should have our year in preview, our annual year in preview with Susanna Skyver Barton, always a favorite around here.
Yep.
And until then, Jason, I guess, cheers to you. Cheers to the listener. Cheers to Bruichladdich.
Yeah, cheers indeed. I've nearly crushed my hat and pour. Thankfully, we have made it past 9 a.m., so I feel better about myself. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.